This is a chain, not a blockchain. I will get to that shortly. This is the classic chain, you know. Each link is connected to another. This is what makes it a chain. These links complement each other. In other words, they form a strong bond that creates the whole. Now let's imagine for a moment that each link is loaded with information. And this should not be just ordinary information, but information about life. So, if we could read this information correctly, could we reach the source of life? In recent years, a concept has entered our lives along with crypto assets. Blockchain. In its simplest definition, it is a type of ledger or record list where data is encrypted and recorded digitally. A blockchain groups information. We can call these blocks that hold clusters of information. These blocks have a certain storage capacity. When they are filled, they close and connect to the previously filled block, forming a blockchain. This way, a chain of data is created. Each link in the blockchain contains verified and encrypted information from the previous one. Thus, the security and integrity of the entire data chain are ensured. Blockchain technology is known as the technology that forms the infrastructure of crypto assets. In fact, we've all been hearing its name quite frequently in recent years. However, at the point we have reached today, it is actively used in many different sectors and fields. For example, in the healthcare field, it allows for the secure and immutable storage of patients' health records. In supply chain management, it is used to understand where products come from and what processes they have undergone. Blockchain has also become an important tool in the academic world for the recording, sharing, and verification of research data. Now, many of us already know what has been covered so far. But what really excites me is the work done by a group of chemists. Polish researcher Bartosz Grzybowski and his team managed to create the largest chemical reaction network to date in order to discover how life began. We are talking about the origins of life. To research this, a dataset spanning billions of years is required. So imagine how much information and processing power is needed. Or don't, let me tell you directly. According to estimates, researching the source of life requires examining over 11 billion possible reactions between molecules. 11 billion reactions. There are so many possibilities that need to be worked on. This is exactly why we need massive computational power. Grzybowski and his team first realized this, but they didn't have a supercomputer to conduct such a large-scale research. Because computers capable of such large-scale calculations are both very expensive and limited in number worldwide. Instead, the research team used Golem, a cryptocurrency mining platform. Golem is a platform with a distributed computer network worldwide. It allows large-scale computational operations by combining the processing power of computers belonging to different users. On this platform, users can rent out the idle processing power of their computers. Grzybowski and his team also utilize the processing power of approximately 20,000 computers worldwide with the help of this platform. The team first created an early life network containing water, methane, and ammonia. So why did they focus on these three molecules? Because these molecules are believed to have been present in the early periods of Earth 4 billion years ago. The researchers identified 4.9 billion of the most likely and functional reactions out of 11 billion different chemical reactions that could occur between these molecules. But the possibilities are still very numerous. We are talking about 4.9 billion chemical reactions. This is not a number to be underestimated. After this stage, the team members converted the information they obtained into a format that computers can process. Okay, this information was translated into a language that computers can understand. But how will all these possibilities be simulated? This is the really difficult part. That is, it is necessary to accurately determine which molecule can combine and separate at which stage and then create their simulation. At this point, the team members used blockchain technology. Thanks to this technology, they were able to accurately model how billions of reactions would occur. With this study, they sought an answer to the origins of life, that is, how it was formed. For now, there is still no definitive answer. However, these studies are still revolutionary for the scientific world. Because these examined reactions fundamentally changed an important piece of information that had been assumed until now. This research showed that only a few hundred out of billions of molecules have the ability to self-replicate. Look, this information is very important. Because scientists believe that molecular structures spontaneously replicated at the beginning of life. However, this study shows us that small molecules can self-replicate very rarely, only a few hundred out of 4.9 billion molecules. This result could overturn the knowledge about the origins of life and molecular evolution, because these findings suggest that perhaps different molecules were involved at the beginning of life. For example, some primitive molecules, they might have managed to exist within a series of chemical cycles before gaining the ability to replicate. So perhaps complex molecules emerged before the self-replicating primitive molecules. If so, this could change everything we know about how life began. So, the foundations of life might have been laid with simpler molecular interactions than we assumed. Well, if primitive molecules did not replicate on their own, how did they replicate and form life? Grzyzbowski says the following about these findings. In our study, we observed the emergence of primitive molecules. However, we do not see them replicating on their own. Therefore, perhaps self-replication emerged later in evolution. So why is self-replication so important? We can explain this with another chain, the DNA chain. DNA, a biological chain that contains the most effective self-replication mechanism known. Each DNA molecule can replicate itself with almost perfect accuracy, and this process ensures the continuity of all living life. The DNA chain and the blockchain. Have you noticed the similarity between these two chains? Both have mechanisms for securely storing and transferring information. This shows us how technology and biology can inspire each other. If you've noticed, the topic always comes back to the chain. Because chains are truly very important for life. That's why I showed you such a chain symbolically at the beginning of the video. The research conducted by Grzyzbowski and his team has added a new and valuable link to the chain. Just like the links of a chain are arranged one after another, scientific discoveries consist of successive and supporting steps. Each new finding is connected to the previous knowledge and forms a solid foundation for future studies. Every time, science adds a new link to this chain. We also add another link to the chain in our minds to reach the source of life and even the universe.